Recently, I went on an 8-hour drive to Ohio to a major RV dealer to buy a brand new rig that I had ordered in April. Stayed overnight at a motel. The next morning, went to the dealership at 9:30, started our walkthrough with the sales rep. We started walking through the wrong unit, and immediately I knew this, so we searched around, we found the right unit and started to go through it. Went around the outside, everything seemed to be normal. Went inside. One of the things I asked the salesman was, does the solar option power this receptacle above where the TV is going to go so that I can watch TV? And he said, yes, it does. Well, guess what? It doesn't. And I had to install an inverter to make it work. That's not his fault. He doesn't know any better. Going through the unit, I saw some things that looked like sloppy workmanship. But I didn't notice all of the damage, the staples that are sticking out, the dings, the dents, the unfinished cabinetry work. It was just horrible. So, I'm going to take you along on a walkthrough of the unit, and you judge for yourself. Is this a unit you would accept and take home? Well, I did. I was in a rush. I mean, you drive 8 hours, 9 hours home. Do I really want to go home without a unit? You know, that's on me. But it is what it is. So come on along, make your own judgment. In the trailer, one of the things I really did not like was the bunk bed. And when you look at the ends of the wood, it's just terrible. These are sharp corners. These ends are not flush. This is a different height from this, and these are just stapled together. And then the boards that go across the top of it are hinged. The inside faces of each board, because it's a laminate with a paddle, 2 panels and a frame. The framing material was just the worst kind of wood ever. Showed lots of gaps. The staples were already coming undone because nothing was glued. So I'm having to remake those panels. Gonna remake these boards and paint them the same color. So this is the fold out bunk on the 170 SS. This is the piece that goes back against the rear wall, but you can see what kind of wood they're using here. The fact that these are just stapled to it, it really doesn't take much for it to work loose. These laminate edges on the frame sometimes would overlap a little bit. I had to trim them up, even them up on the table saw. And what I'm going to be doing is adding some molding, which I will paint, and I'll take some adhesive contact cement and attach those and then put it all back together. And for the new rails, I have nicely rounded over edges. We'll get them painted up to match. And right inside the door I have a bunch of dings. That's pretty sad. And then down here at the corner, look at that. We're gonna have to tape that up. As I mentioned earlier, where seat cushions go down in here with the dinette, if you slide in, man, you can get yourself caught on that corner. So I'm going to round that off, and you have these channel pieces that came up to the top. I'll just shorten that once I'm done, and should be a lot safer. Got the corners rounded over, now we'll apply some paint. That's the finished edge, much safer. Well, this is the bunk rail that it did have. You can see it has uneven top, no finish on the front. So it's been replaced with a new rail. I've put face trim on all of the boards, so we'll be installing that and finishing it up. I don't know, maybe it's me just being fussy, but you know, I already showed you how I rounded that corner, but none of this was painted. It was just the particle board showing. So I ended up painting that and that on the dinette. And then you have these top covers, kind of sloppy work. That really needs to come off and be redone. Here, that wasn't even tucked under. Velcro strips can't even be stapled on straight. Awful. Dirty seat cushions and caulking. Really? That's sad. There's another seat cushion. There must be half a dozen or more. Caulking. And how are these cushions supposed to stay back against the wall? It's got Velcro back there and back here, but nothing in the middle. They're supposed to be. One problem I've been able to solve this morning was why that light would not work above the stove. And you've got these little wire connectors, and they are where that light is connected to this light switch. The wire connector was not making a good contact, so I just installed wire nuts, solved that problem. After taking off the padded tops, I can see some of the problem. Here you have a left over right, and now you have a right over left. That's going to cause puckers. Just you know, like a rush job. And then you have the corners. This is, what can I say? You can see the quality control. Completed the restapling, got rid of all the puckers. I think it'll look good once it's screwed down. At the corner of the dinette, there's a cabinet door to get in underneath. But look at that edge trim. And then why is the floor cut out? Doesn't make any sense to me why you would leave a gap like that. One of the problems I came across outside is that this is really bent in a little bit here, so it's impossible to get the hose in on this side. I can't get it in on the other side. I'm going to try to bend that out and see if we can make that work. Well, I got out the digging iron and did a little prying. I can now get it in. Problem solved. One of my issues is getting the water heater to work. The guy said I should be able to open that valve and let the water come out, which it does do. I have hit the power button. I initially got a flame here. It went out. So I need some help with that. On the underside, I'm looking at a hole that goes up into the vanity in the bathroom. I really don't know what that's all about, but The hole goes right up in there to the main floor, and that's going to let a lot of cold air in, bugs and rodents, so we're going to have to put a patch plate on there. One modification I did in the vanity, because of that hole that was down in the floor, and this panel was screwed right to the front, there was some space that I was able to recapture by just modifying the base. Just have a little slide-in partition, and plenty of room to store toilet paper or something else. When I drew the curtains down and looked from the outside, I noticed that the curtains have some kind of vinyl damage to the surface. And it's not just one, it is both curtains. They are dirty and that can be cleaned, but that can't be cleaned. Here's the cabinet right inside the door. It's like a little slice above it. There's a ding. Next to the bed, there's a little closet space. But that's got 1/8 of an inch of play because the staples aren't holding. Throughout the unit you can see where they tried to do some touch-up by adding some kind of a paint. You can kind of see an area there that's discolored, maybe more here and down there. And the same thing goes for these ding areas. They tried to fill that in with some toner or colored paint. But I would suggest if you buy a unit like this, go ahead and color match some paint at your local hardware store, because what I wanted to do, instead of seeing all these black screw heads, I colored them with the paint. And there's another ding. Just dings all over. I wanted to show you on the bunk just how much nicer these edges look now that there's actually some trim on them. There we go. And here's an update on the water heater. I was not able to get a gas flame to ignite. I thought that was kind of strange. I went inside, turned on the stove burners. I didn't get a flame there either. Apparently this thing, or the tank, ran out of gas, so I don't even think I got a 20-pound filled tank when I left the dealership. So I took the tank to a local supplier, got it filled, installed it, turned this thing on. Hey, I've got hot water. Success. In the shower area, you can see how this is pulled away. It looks, that's a good 1/4 inch. Looks like there should have been another button there. And the same thing happens on the other side. I've seen that bulge out when the trailer gets warm. And one of the problems with the door frame, up at the top you have about a 3/16 inch gap. Down here it's about a 1/2 inch. So you just barely have enough latch, and it remains pretty constant down to the bottom. In this lighting it's difficult to see, but about 22 inches out from the dinette there is a line right here, there's a ridge that goes the whole way back to the sink, and I'm thinking it's maybe a plywood seam that's sticking up maybe 3/32 of an inch. This corner I've had to repair already because this vinyl material was pulling away. And over here by the dinette, there's a little bump right here. It almost feels like a screw head sticking up. It's sticking up almost 1/8 of an inch, and I'm afraid just walking over that too many times might tear it or wear it through. By the bed you can see the cabinet, how out of square that is. It's at least a 1/4 of an inch the way it's racked, and when you look at this you can see the gaps here, how this side is hanging down way too far. Now 22 inches up from the base to the top of the hanger is really not tall enough for a shirt or anything to hang. Then the fact that the hangers stick out about 2.5 inches beyond the frame means that that bar was not set back far enough nor high enough. Now another weird thing is this television that I have installed. According to one video I saw online, there's supposed to be a plywood backer in here, and I checked this with a stud finder and I couldn't find any backer. And when I did that screw in particular, I know it did not hit anything. And yet over here next to the refrigerator it says TV backer. Now why would you have a backer on a wall where there is no cable or electrical hookups? That makes no sense. At the sink they have a nice, what looks like a marble material, but you're fooled. This is simply a vinyl coating. And when we got this, there was already signs of water damage, and I've had to re-glue and repair this already. It's a little difficult to see in this lighting. But they have kind of like a cardboard composite material here with this white vinyl attached, and as soon as you get a little water in that seam, that cardboard swells up and you get these ridge marks. And the same thing happens at your dining room table, so it really means you shouldn't be putting these inserts in this lip. If there's any water laying there at all, you're liable to get a problem. And for the thousands of cabinets that they must make, why wouldn't you have a jig so you don't have doors that are so out of alignment? That's a good 1/8 inch off. And when you look at the toilet positioning, don't you think that that's really out of square? That needs to be turned a little bit counterclockwise. On the overhead storage compartment on the left side of the door, there's about a 3/4 of an inch overlap. And on the right side, barely an 1/8 of an inch, if that, at the top. But at the bottom, you know, no overlap. There should be at least 3/8 of an inch on each side. We also noticed that when you take the table legs down and you want to put your table flat so you can make this into a bunk area, the corner of the table is already showing signs of wear. This kind of vinyl material is just easily damaged and it peels back. And you can see all kinds of little chips occurring across the face. It's a very, very poor quality. On the slide, I also noticed there was a couple places where it looks like they tried to put some glue over top of little cuts. I don't know if this was your unit, would you have accepted it in this condition or not? And Forest River, I think you need to talk to your staff.